Mark,
right.
thanks for getting on. And Derek, appreciate you guys hopping on and joining us today. Um, a little bit about us real quick is, we service pharmacies all over the country. Mark, just for your background, um, independent pharmacies all over the country, from the accounting and tax standpoint and planning and advisory standpoint. So that's all we do. We eat, sleep, and breathe it. And we just happened to put together this podcast that's grown pretty significantly over the years. And, we're just trying to help as many independent pharmacies as we can. Obviously,
as you should, right? As you should.
that's right.
That's the mission.
Got a presence in pharmacy now. So.
We see the number side of everything. So we see what these PBMs are doing to these independents all over the country. So we know and
it's insane. It's just brutally insane.
It's awful.
Right. I mean, it's wrong in every which way, shape, and form. So, you guys already know I have no problems ripping on the PBM. So fire away.
Nope, we see it every day. We're talking to pharmacists every day, and they say the same thing. So it's tough, but a lot of ingenuity and problem solving comes out of it. You see some pharmacies really challenge, take on that obstacle and exceed, benchmarks and things like that. So in a lot of ways, there's some good that comes out of it. But
they're having to advocate, Scotty. I mean, that's a big part of what our independents, our clients are doing is headed up to DC every year for fly-ins.
And it's a shame they have to do that, right?
It shouldn't come to that.
Yep. Yeah, it shouldn't come to that. And, the whole this is non-negotiable letter from the PBMs shouldn't be about that at all.
Right.
And you're starting to get some momentum in states and doing some of the right things in terms of vertical integration. Of course, they sue, but the big question in my mind is, going to cash pay is tough, right? And plus, it just sends more business to the captive pharmacies, that are the one that's owned by a PBM that shall not be named. And, that doesn't solve the problem. So, I'm curious more than anything else what you guys are seeing that's working so I can advocate for it.
Well, you're seeing pharmacies. Yeah. I mean, Darren, you speak, you're right there in it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like what we have done, and I mean, we've tried to really diversify. So, every year we look at our financials and say, okay, well, how can we make more money not dispensing prescriptions? And that's a pretty sad place to come from as a pharmacy. And so things like vaccines, things like actually have 2 wellness clinics, cash wellness clinics in our pharmacies right now, where we look at like hormone replacement therapy and some wellness programs and things like that. And so we've really had to adapt as pharmacies. And then Oread, creating our own PBM that does right by employers and right by pharmacies and trying to really just steal market shares.
But even that's hard because when you do your own, you can't really be a true rebate GPO, right?
Right.
You're going to have to go through a cent or whoever to try to get brand pricing. And you're still in the exact same place, even though you can make it up. And hopefully you're working through Cost Plus Marketplace and Cost Plus Drugs to help you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we do all those things. And so, but you're right. It's the sandbox that's there and created because there are some PBMs out there that are trying to aggregate their own rebates. And I'll tell you, when we go up against them in RFPs and things like that, I mean, it's just a third of what we can get. Now, we do use an independent aggregator, but they are still, using a cent and some of those other guys too.
Yeah, they have to go through them. And it's really just a cent, right? It's not an accident that of the big 3, only one of them works with others, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because they don't want the competition. Because if there was more than one, then they would have to compete on price.
Yeah, absolutely. But even at that, Mark, I mean, even, when we go up against other transparent pass-through PBMs, they're still keeping another piece. Like there's another layer in there besides just a cent, and so it's broken in multiple levels. And so just to get in there and really show what a PBM is supposed to do, even if we have to play in the sandbox that's been created, it has been really, amazing for me and for the clients that we service. And so I don't know, just doing everything we can to change the model as it stands.
Yeah, diversification is the main key, like you mentioned, Darren. I mean, that's what everyone's having to do to be able to stay afloat. Our independents that we work with, I mean, they're just having to do other things, offer other services, clinical services, Some are doing
Sure.
the cash model if they're in a community that they're able to do that, where they just charge cash and they don't run things through insurance for people that can afford to
Yeah,
do that.
Yeah, and
absolutely. I think
that-
that's the way it needs to go for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the more cash basis, insurance should never pay for ibuprofen or a drug that's even under $20. You know, like that.
Yeah, because the copay balances out one way or the other, right?
Right.
And it just adds transaction costs, and it just sets the PBM up to take advantage of the sponsor or the patient. I mean, just the fact that there's tiers explains it all, right? There's nothing special about specialty drugs. I mean, every drug is special in its own way, right?
Exactly.
You know, but there's, imatinib, all these, generic pills. There's just an excuse to jack up the whack and then just hit patients with coinsurance, and even at Medicare Advantage and Part D, it's just insane. A big chunk of cost plus drugs business, and I'm sure for you, Derek, to a certain extent, are people who are on Medicare Advantage or on Part D, and they use a specialty generic, and their coinsurance is insane, so they buy from one of us. Makes no sense.
Yep.
No, we do that all the time. So one of the things that we do in our pharmacies is we advise people on Medicare drug plans. And it's getting harder and harder because everything is going to Advantage plans, right? Which is also a really bad thing. But, 5 years ago, we used to just advise people, just get the cheapest Medicare plan that you can get as far as a Part D plan. And then we'll charge you a fair cash price for your cheap generic prescriptions. And then that way it doesn't hit your insurance. Because sometimes on those PDP plans, they were charging like $30 for lisinopril or something, where we could charge $5 and be fine, And so we would do that all the time for people, but those have essentially gone away.
Jared, are you guys allowed to post prices? So, pick a drug, could you post a price list? So, and just say to people before you present insurance, make sure that your copay is less than this price.
Yeah, I don't know why we couldn't. The only problem with that is if we have so our margins are so slim, right? And so if we get the opportunity to make $6 on a lisinopril.
Oh no, I'm not saying doing it at a price you can't make money at, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
If you're making money on whatever medication it is, particularly generics, because I know generics are your only place where you can have any margin at all. And particularly we'll talk about wholesalers hopefully, but the whole GCR thing, which makes it even harder and means you have to, charge even more, is ridiculous. But, because someone had told me at one point that it was illegal to show prices for individual medications in a pharmacy.
Do it all. I mean, people call and ask what our cash price is for things all the time. So I would say the only hesitance
I don't think you're supposed
for posting.
But
for posting something would be that if an insurance company got a hold of that, and if they were ever paying me more than what I posted for any of those drugs, they would drop my reimbursement below what I posted.
Right, for sure. That's why I would set that price. But even so, right, particularly with the, the ACA plans now where the deductibles are going up and up and up, right? Anything that can make you money could still possibly save the patient a lot of money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So going back to that, going back to your question, Mark, what we're seeing, and Darren, you touched on this, pharmacists becoming their own insurance there in-house, steering, well, not steering, but, helping patients pick the right plans that are beneficial for the patient, but also the pharmacy. We've seen some major improvements in margin with pharmacies doing that are really good at it. So you're seeing that pick up. You're seeing obviously pharmacies getting into some compounding. The most profitable pharmacies, the strongest pharmacies do a bit of compounding. There's no doubt about that.
But even that's scary as hell, right? Because there's a really good chance Lilly or Novo is going to come after you for any of that.
Yeah. So a lot of them stop the GLPs, but we got some that are like, I'm going all in on GLPs and we're going to do the combo. And,
because Cost Plus, we manufacture a lot, right?
Yeah.
Sterile injectable, shortage list stuff. And we were like, literally it would cost us less than $30 to do a pen for either of the GLPs. And we just won't do it, right? Can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that definitely slowed down, but while it was going, we got a lot of tax problems, is how we like to say around here. So,
Yeah.
but
Just a few.
just a few. But so really see everything, in clinical services being another one where pharmacies are getting involved, and then even like you get down to the granular level with supplements and niche OTC type products and things like that. So
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And
Healthcare.
Cost Plus,
Yeah.
yeah, with our TC, our affiliates, our Cuban card stuff, we're working out deals right now for flu shots and vaccines, where part of the deal is there's a service arrangement with the manufacturer because, for instance, with flu shots in particular, and even the pills, right? They only hit like 1% of the people who end up getting the flus, and hardly anybody that's prophylactic, right, to prevent it. And so they're willing to pay pharmacies to get, flu pills. I'm not going to mention the brands because I always screw up the names, but there's money there. To your point, there is definitely a lot of money there.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, all this different stuff is great, but like the root of the problem is a pharmacy should be able to survive and do business by just dispensing prescriptions.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's not the case today. A pharmacy cannot survive just dispensing prescriptions, which is a sad state of affairs.
But
it's
current fight against the system, how do you guys feel about this TrumpRx that's
it's a non-event? It'll be great for us because every time there's an article about TrumpRx, they mention Cost Plus drugs.
Yeah.
So
we saw that
it's great
Friday
for us.
The headlines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but effectively what they've told us is that they're going to just list the best price. They're not going to do any transactions. So if we're the best price, they're like, you'll get listed. If you can figure out a way, because it's cash pay, right? And it's only cash pay. And, even they'll acknowledge that Pfizer wasn't dumb. They put medications that either they're going to be generic next year, or super high price, or, nobody buys, the copay is so low, it doesn't matter. Right.
Or nobody uses them. Those 4 drugs, nobody uses those drugs. I mean, it's more, I don't want to get political or whatever, but it's just skirting the real problem. Like PBM reform is what's needed. And period.
Jared, I was just about to say that. It doesn't really get to the heart of the issue, which is the PBM problem that we're facing.
Yeah.
So,
well, if they would come in and make rebates illegal, they would get rid of rebates. That would fix a lot.
But would that solve the problem, Derek? Because if I'm a PBM, right, if I'm one of the big 6, put aside the big 3, one of the big 6, right, then I'm doing what I'm starting to do now anyways, because they're getting pressured a lot with audits and everything to pass through all the rebates. I'm doing private labels on biosimilars, right? And I'm doing a high WAC price and a medium WAC price, knowing that my high WAC price is $1,200 and my medium WAC is $600, but it costs me $200, right? Yeah. And I'm pushing my margins there, and I'm not accepting any scripts for any other biosimilars. So I'm pushing everything there. I'm charging the manufacturers more fees. I'm charging you guys more fees. I'm creating, I'm working with the discount cards, and they're charging you more fees that they're saying aren't more fees, or I'm saying I'm going to rebate you more. I'm going to pay you more for brands, but it's only going to be 0.03%, 17 pharmacies or whatever, right, that benefit from it. They're just gaming the system. In my mind, one of the key things is you don't let PBMs do formularies.
Yeah, sure, because they're rebate driven.
Yeah, because that's how they get rebates. That's their leverage. Yeah. Because when you talk to a manufacturer and you say, why won't you work with Cost Plus or with Darrett or with Austin, whoever, on a direct price, whatever their volumes are, whatever price they negotiate, more power to it, buy it at, that net price through the wholesaler. And they say we can't because of the fact that the big PBMs control those formularies. Correct. And that's 160, 180 million people, whatever it is. And if we don't have access to that, if we don't do what they say and we don't sign the contract they send us, then they're either going to remove us from the formulary or diminish us so that we're not on as many formularies. And that can cost us tens, hundreds, or billions of dollars. And so the point being that that formulary is all the leverage that the PBMs have.
Yep.
If you remove the formulary, you remove their leverage. And at that point in time, look, there's TPAs, there's companies there's consultants that for any self-insured company, they will put together a formulary for you. And most likely you can just take the one you had last year and then you decide what you're going to cover in GLP-1s. And then if there's any new drugs that either go biosimilar, go generic, or are new, you just get some help or make your own decision. That's the easiest thing in the world, particularly for big companies. But the fact that they control those formularies gives them all the power.
So the current bill that's in the House right now being negotiated, so to speak, and you got some sponsors jumping on there. What is your thoughts on that? I mean, where do you think? Obviously,
which part of which bill? I can't keep up with which ones are trying to be proposed and what.
What's there's a big one out there that's a pharmacy only bill right now. Also, do you know the name?
I don't know the details.
HR 4317, it's the PBM Reform Act, is one of the ones that's being introduced right now.
That's the one NCPA's gotten, I believe. I don't want to speak for NCPA, but they've gotten behind it.
It's a buddy.
Yeah.
I love Buddy, right? Buddy knows what's going on, right? His heart's in the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know enough about, again, I'm kind of like Mark, like it seems like a new one gets introduced all the time. So it's hard to follow, but I think that one deals with a lot of transparency in the space and
that's
it's all well and good. But
transparency.
Yeah.
To solve all the problems.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big piece of it. People have to see. It's amazing to me, when we go in and do RFPs and everything, if you're in a traditionally insured product, you have no idea what you're spending your money on in healthcare. Zero idea. And so, how can you make any informed decision on usually what's like the number 2 item on your P&L? Like it's costing you more
for
than,
sure.
Most everything else is costing you. So, and you don't know what you're spending the money on. So it's always amazing.
Even worse. Not only if you're like a mega company with 500,000 lives or more, okay, they'll give you your data because they just want the volumes to juice up their volumes, right? Okay, put them aside. Anybody less, you don't fully own your data. And I was talking to a state today, and they told me that one of the requirements was that they had to be able to use a third-party auditor, independent from the PBM that they choose. And the PBMs declined to bid because of it.
Wow.
That's another problem, Mark. So the states and the federal government both, their RFP processes are basically written by the big 3. So we have no shot of even participating in any of those.
Tell me about it.
That's been a big push for us is state government should really look at what their rules are to be able to even bid on the state employee health plan or whatever. Because if you're not at a certain size or have so many lives or have so much capital or whatever, you can't bid. And
it's ridiculous. And they'll say you've got to have, it's not you've got to have one account with 10,000 lives. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 250,000, one account with 250,000 lives, which only 3 companies have, right? It's insane.
You got to have, $10 million in the bank and you have to have been in business for 8 years or 10 years.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So it really excludes anybody except for the top 6 or sometimes even the top 3 of being able to bid on that business.
And what about the big discount cards? What are they hitting you with now?
Yeah, I mean, most of the discount cards are just a fee, and so I don't know. Every one of them has a different formula for reimbursement, but almost every one of them has some sort of a clawback in there. So once you adjudicate the prescription, you have to pay the discount card $3 or $5 or $2 or whatever it is. And so to be honest with you, Mark, what a lot of independent pharmacies will do is they'll adjudicate that card, see what the copay is for the patient, and then reverse that out. Yep. That way they don't have to turn around and pay that
as they should, card. Right? As they should.
Yeah, and so the patient gets the right price with that card, but then you don't have to pay the fee because you can't afford to as a pharmacy.
Just remember, a Cost Plus Drugs Team Cuban card, we pay $12.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
we're going to start picking up the volume. Our problem has been we don't send a lot of volume yet because we're still going through a lot of stuff. We finally got up to 17,000 pharmacies. And so you're going to see a big push from us for flu related things and services there. And because for us, it doesn't really work when we have to cold chain ship, but we still get good prices. We're trying to pass those prices on down to the pharmacies and allow them to take that margin. So like whether it's insulin, some of the biosimilars, like we'll get you our price. Wait till you see the Stelara price we're going to get.
Yeah, I talked to Ron about that.
Yeah, it's going to be insane, right? So you're going to start to see posts now that any of our pharmacies that have any inventory, if you tell us, I'll post something on Twitter or wherever and saying, go visit Derek, go visit Austin, go visit whoever, because they've got this great price on this new Stelara biosimilar because you know, we know you're not going to make money from us on the $5 drugs and the $10 drugs because it's a $12 fill fee, right? And so plus our percent. And so we're trying to really push anything that's cold chain. We're going to try to get you a better price and try to send you that business because Cost Plus can't compete as mail order, but we want you guys to be successful with it.
That's awesome. We appreciate that. Well, and like what we'll do, Mark, like on our clients for Oread, right? So there's a bunch of clients around the Wichita, Kansas area that we service for. But our pharmacies go and do their flu shot clinics for them. And we actively tell them, our pharmacy will charge you directly. That way you don't have to pay Oread a fee to process the claim. You know, and so like that's the way business should be done.
No, for sure. And Darren, if you have any ideas for us where you can make more money if there's certain products, just let me know, right? Okay. Because I make more money, I shouldn't say this out loud, when you guys sell something for us than when I sell something because of all the shipping, right? Yeah. And that's knowing that we're not going to sell against Walmart's $4 drugs or, you know, the $5 ones from Amazon. We just don't get that business. But anything more expensive, we do better when you do better.
You, Mark, how does pharmacy work with Cost Plus?
I mean,
you're a mail order, right? You're a pharmacy yourself.
Well, we're vertically integrated in a lot of different ways, right? So we've really grown from when we first launched just as costplusdrugs.com. So we have costplusdrugs.com, which is our mail order business. And then we have Team Cuban Card, which I did not name. But if you go to teamcubancard.com, there's 17,000 different pharmacies we're affiliated with. And so you can literally, and soon you'll be able to put it in your Apple wallet or Samsung wallet, but you just print out the card or just have it on your phone. You send the script to Darren and you show your card and Darren gets paid $12. There's a price. We make 15% off of it. So again, we're not making any money on the cheap drugs. No one's using us for that. But for the more expensive drugs where they can save money with Darren, they're going there. And we're going to be sending more and more there. So please sign up, go to Team Cuban Card or go to business.costplusdrugs.com. And then the third way is we have what's called Cost Plus Marketplace, which is also under business.costplusdrugs.com. And we go out to manufacturers, primarily generic, but we're trying to, we actually tried to do our own rebate GPO with the brands, but they weren't having it at all. I should say at all. There was a little bit of bites, but not much. And then we'll negotiate, particularly for generics, to use our volume because our volume is just skyrocketing. It's insane. And particularly for biosimilars, because it's hard for you guys to get good prices on biosimilars because the wholesalers don't want to give you a good price, right? And the good news is it's a biosimilar and not a generic. And because it's a biosimilar and not a generic, it doesn't count against your GCR. And so we can, so you can charge, if Usimary is $484 from you guys, and you charge whatever you need to charge for the patient, they're still saving a boatload of money. And then you guys are making good money. So we see biosimilars in particular as a great way for us to work more. And so Cost Plus Marketplace will sell not just to pharmacies, but we sell to clinics, we sell to hospitals. I mean, we sell tens of millions of dollars worth to hospitals because, believe it or not, our little virtual wholesaler is cheaper than what the hospitals are paying right now because hospitals buying drugs are just as screwed up as pharmacies buying drugs. And then the third part is we manufacture sterile injectables ourselves. And so for right now, things that are on shortage lists, or we'll import things that are on shortage lists like lenticillin, penicillin G. Nobody can get it. Pfizer was out of it. and their price was like $100 per pop. Our price is like $19 per pop that we were able to import. So we either make or import it with FDA approval, and that allows us to compete at a lot of different levels. But as I said, my mission is to keep indies in business. And I even include Walgreens in that, right? Because, if they're not in business, the big PBMs dominate even more. And that makes it harder for us and for patients. So I'd
much
rather
harder.
send as much of my business as I can to pharmacies.
So you
Well,
got
and-
into this
and-
business. Go ahead,
Right.
Derek. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Well,
Martin,
just-
you got into this business to disrupt the industry. I mean, what's your feeling so far on your progress, or do
I
you
think
it's
we've
gonna
made
happen?
progress for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
what's your outlook on pharmacy from this point?
I'll defer to you guys, but I think we've changed a lot. Just the smartest thing we ever did was publish our price list,
Oh yeah.
because that gave employers in particular, and to a lesser extent patients, the ability to compare what they think they're paying for medications versus what, particularly for specialty generics and now biosimilars. They were getting ripped off. And Derek, you have patients all the time. I was going to have to pay such and such at this big pharmacy chain, and I came to you and it was 10 cents on the dollar. Right.
Absolutely.
Now imagine across, a big employer. We just hear it all the time. So we've definitely had an impact, and then my big mouth, I think, has had an impact just ripping on all these people. They could, no disrespect, but they could get, when Darren and Austin and Scotty and you guys were yelling and screaming about PBMs, it was one thing. When I'm going on, national TV, it's a little bit different. And so I think we've really had an impact. And I think that's led, plus our manufacturing has made a big difference too, because we can, practice what we preach. And soon, we're looking at licensing medications. And now with this push to manufacture domestically, we've had some brands come to us and say, hey, can we use your manufacturing? Because ours is really good. We literally are pretty damn close in our cost to manufacture to China, because we're all robotics driven.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tax benefits in the UBA on manufacturing. I might throw in there.
Yeah. Well, just the conversation changing around the reimbursement model is a huge win. I mean, people
Any
are
conversation
they're
about
talking about it, talking about changing it. So that's a big win.
Wait till they hear the shit. I'm already hearing from wholesalers about the shit I'm giving them and how they don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, tough shit, boy.
And I don't know if you guys saw in Oklahoma, they've really done some good state legislation in regard to under reimbursement for pharmacies, right?
Yep.
And so I don't know if you just saw CVS Caremark got slapped with a $32 million fine, basically, that went back to the pharmacies. And so the way, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to, the way that the state attorney general's office is able to implement that fine is that an independent PSAO would give them those reimbursements that were underwater, right? And so they kept feeding them all of those claims that pharmacies were submitting that were underwater. So that's how CVS was able to give that money back to the states. But guess which PSAOs refused to give that data to the state attorney general's office?
3 of them.
And so any pharmacy that was doing business with those PSAOs weren't included in that reimbursement.
So the number would have been like 100 times bigger than 32.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, most pharmacies are using the PSAO.
Yes.
That right there is a reason not to do business with the major PSAOs. Either.
What do you lose, Derek? What do you lose if you don't do business with the PSAO?
So, I mean, the idea behind it is bargaining power, right? And so if I take my 8 pharmacies to CVS Caremark and try to negotiate a rate, OreadRx or one of the bigger PSAOs has more bargaining power because they have thousands of pharmacies.
Right. No, I get that's the purpose. Yeah, that's the purpose.
Right. Sure. Right. So that's what you lose. And my thought is, the big PBMs want you to go out on your own and do your own contracting. That way, if they don't need you any longer, they can just swat you aside, and so if there's enough coverage in my area
Right.
And
so you'd be out of network. So you're not going to be in their network. And once you're out of network.
Yeah. And so I think the PBMs want you not to be a part of a PSAO. So I don't necessarily agree that that's the answer, but I do agree that there's a big misaligned incentive with, wholesalers owning PSAOs. And so really good independent PSAOs that do things the right way, I think are important.
So I have a question regarding take an average American that has health insurance and pays $1,000, $2,000 a month out of pocket for their family's insurance plan. Do you think, or how do people handle that? Or are they accepting of the fact that they are going to go now and start paying cash, basically, obviously not running through insurance for these drugs, and then it's not being applied to their deductible. So now they're paying all this money for health insurance, goes up every year, and then they're still having to throw cash around for.
Well, there's 5 states now. It went from Tennessee and Texas up to 5 states where you can send in your receipt and have it applied to your deductible.
Oh, wow. Didn't realize
so
that.
that's progress.
So I'll tell you this, and we see it all the time. We are so brainwashed in this country, addicted to health insurance, because what they don't realize is they're paying $1,000 because we're running those medications on their insurance. And so if we wouldn't run those medications on their insurance, it would be less than that.
Right.
And so
we get everyone to do that.
We get all the time in pharmacy. We get all the time in pharmacy. I could tell somebody that, okay, this is going to be $3 less if we don't run it on your health insurance. And they'll say, no, run it on my health insurance. That's what it's for. And it just doesn't make any freaking sense.
Yeah, they don't compute.
I don't think that's ever going to change, right? I mean, the mind shift is not going to happen.
Part of the problem, though, is with health insurance is people still can't afford their deductibles or out of pocket.
Yeah.
Right. The average deductible for a silver plan is $5,000 on the ACA. And if you have a family, it's $19,200 for the max out of pocket. There ain't no normal family being able to afford that. And so that's one of the reasons when these ACA subsidies go off, that the price for everybody else's insurance will go up, because fewer people are going to be buying insurance because the premiums went up. And so, it'll be great for our cash businesses, right? Because they'll be forced to use cash. But, I look at this a lot, and the healthcare business is really easy. You go to the doctor and they either give you good news, medium news, or bad news. And if it's good news, you walk away nothing, right? If it's medium or bad news, there's only 2 questions. What does it cost and how do you pay for it? Mm-hmm. We have screwed up what does it cost and how do you pay for it completely. And the crazy part is, and I'm one of those weird healthcare geeks that tries to think about, okay, what do you do to try to solve this shit? The crazy thing is, if you're in a wreck and you need a $50,000 worth of surgery, to pick an easy number, you're shit out of luck, right? You go to the hospital and they'll say, here's a financing option, or they become the subprime lender and they lend it to you, and then you can try to negotiate it down.
I hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to go to college, $50,000, no problem. You want a mortgage on your house, we'll guarantee your house payment. No problem. You want an SBA loan? We'll guarantee the SBA loan. Boom. You break your back and break your neck and your brains are hanging out of your head and you need help to pay for it.
Sorry.
Good luck, Charlie. I mean, it's just insane.
It is. That's a good point.
Well, we're under a government shutdown because of healthcare right now, I guess. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. And the craziest part about that, and look, the Democrats don't have a lot of choice, and I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent on everything, right? But the crazy part is the Democrats are fighting to give more money to healthcare insurance companies.
Right. No.
They need it, right?
The one group of companies that every person on the planet that doesn't work for them hates with every bone in their being, right? Let's give them tens of billions of dollars more. Let's not help the patients pay their deductible at all. We should have taken that money and said, okay, we're not giving any more. You know what? If you need just like a PPP loan for back in the COVID days, but for healthcare. If you need healthcare, you're going to have to pay it back unless you give us a damn good reason. But we'll negotiate something with the hospital. As long as they're at Medicare rates, we'll pay for it, right? As long as they're at a cash rate, we'll pay it. pharmacy price, right?
Right.
We're good. We're good with that. But no, it's like, let's give more money to the health insurance companies. I mean, it's insane.
It's insane. Well, and it's a problem that, like, I just don't know. There's not a great way to solve it because it's just such a big problem. But one thing that has always stuck out to me, Mark, is when we did the thing at the White House, the round table, and one of your comments was stop doing business with the big three, right? Like, that is the answer, because that's exactly what we see with Oread. When we take a company away from one of the big six, like, their premiums actually start to decrease.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's not only because of drugs, it's because of, like, the surgery, like the $50,000 surgery at a big hospital in Dallas or Kansas City or wherever. Like, a lot of times you can get that a lot cheaper for the same quality.
Yeah.
Like for my companies, our employees, we do direct contracting with the hospitals.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
Oh, man, that's awesome.
any
Wow.
schmo can walk in with a credit card at any hospital and get a cash price better than the biggest health insurance companies negotiate for that surgery or for
Right.
an MRI or for anything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'll pay you in cash. We'll do reinsurance above a certain amount, but I'll take on that risk.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so
Jared-
that's the answer. So that introduces true competition, because right
Mhm.
now you choose United Healthcare. You're getting their stop loss, you're getting their TPA, you're getting their PBM, you're getting their networks, you're getting all of it, right? Which is the easy button, which a lot of people choose to do. But if you choose to do your own thing, you get to pick each one of those things. And now each one of those companies has to compete against each other. We have to compete against other PBMs. If we don't do a good job, we get fired, right? And so
Yeah.
it's the same with all the. And so that's the answer. It's just how do we get that message to more employers, and how do we move that needle?
Yeah, Darren, I always love that story that you've told before about when you switched a school system over to OreadRx and just how much you were able to save them. That story always stands out to me because it's like that's seems like the obvious solution there.
Last year they got an 18% decrease in their premium, and they got a premium-free holiday in December. So nobody paid premiums in December for the whole school
That's
district.
amazing.
And it was all in the drugs. I mean,
You
that's
need
what's
a
happening.
better press person, Darren. You need a better
I
press
know.
person.
Well,
Are you calling up the local
You
Kansas
know-
City, today in Kansas City, the local TV stations,
Yeah.
and talking to them?
I know. Well, yeah, we should be doing more of that. But I mean, that's what it looks like, and so that's what it can look like, and so we just got to get that story out and have more people look. And I'll tell you this.
Like if you put something on social, if you tag me, so if you tell the story about saving them 18% and having a holiday, no premiums month, tag me and do it on LinkedIn, do it on Instagram, do it on all of them, right? So
Sure.
then I can say this is the way it can be. Go talk to Derek, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Open up your DMs and do it. Go to the local TV affiliates, because they're always looking for stories. That's why I'm on media so much. I'll just email somebody and say, hey, let me tell you this story, and they're like, we need to fill time. It's just like a podcast is hard to fill time. Their TV show and podcast every day is hard to fill time.
Darren, I'll take it. Darren,
whenever I email them versus when you email them.
Yeah, Darren, I'll take it a step further. I'll clip this portion of you talking about that story and just send you the raw clip, and you can just roll with it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, public entities, I feel like, I don't know if you see this or not, but public entities are probably the most taken advantage of when it comes to this stuff, because they don't have.
You saw all that Virginia stuff, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So school systems, municipalities, counties, I mean, they have committees and of a bunch of people that are just, don't really completely understand the full, because health insurance is difficult to understand, right? Even for me, and I'm in it every single day. And so they don't have a CEO or a CFO that their bonus is dependent on how much money their company makes. And so PBMs and insurance companies have figured that out, and they really take advantage of these systems, unfortunately. And so you can really make a great impact on all of those places, for sure.
Oh, for sure. but it's just educating, right? It's not a CEO's core competency to understand their benefits, even though, like you said, Darren, it's the second largest expense line item.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing to me, Mark, how many CEOs and CFOs aren't involved in this conversation. They leave it up to
they're
their
not at
HR.
all, right? They just trust somebody and go from there.
Yeah, they leave it up to their HR director to make a multi-million-dollar decision for their company. And they're making the wrong one all over the place.
Over the place. And those people don't want to change, right? Because they know switching benefits and going through another vendor, that's a pain in the ass. That means they're working overtime when they want to get home.
Pain in the ass.
It is. Nightmare.
Yeah, that's right. It's not the easy button, but it's the right thing to do. And so we've got to figure out how to change that story, that narrative.
Yeah, I think talking about that cost reduction is one of those key points that you'll have to lean into. That's going to change the narrative because once people start to see how it impacts their that line item, I think that's going to make the decision a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Money talks. Well, Mark, it's coming up on an hour. Darren, I know you guys got a lot to do. We certainly appreciate you hopping on, spending some time with us, spending some time with our listeners, our pharmacy owners out there. So thank you both.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Great.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you guys.